just do it faster, right? Because the remind here is right? We want Alan to come on stage. Alan is a good friend of mine since he came from Alexis, and he's been a medical doctor. His started his career as a medical doctor, but I want all of us to hear his story. Why a medical doctor has come to the insurance industry, and what is his passion, and what is his understanding of our business. I wanted all of us to hear. At least coming as experts.
Thank you, Raghu. Appreciate that. You know, we talk about, excuse me, my voice is starting to give out, so we'll get through this stuff. We talked about bigger, stronger, and faster. You heard Hubert talk about that. It's been a theme the last 3 or 4 days. Bigger is obvious. We have to grow. You have to recruit. You have to build. That is clear. And how to do that, or how to accomplish it, is the question. And doing that in a stronger way, that you become a stronger, better, indispensable leader. And organizations like mine, Nexus, and the expertise that I can help you bring to the table will allow you to do that in a stronger way, that you become a better, stronger, indispensable type of leader. And ultimately to be able to do that faster. Being able to do that faster is to get rid of all the tasks and the things that we think are important by shifting your paradigm to do the things that lead to growing bigger and to recruiting and to building. And that's the goal of what we're bringing. Sure, there's an element of product in there, yes, but anybody, a monkey can make products. A monkey can build widgets. You are trained, professional, indispensable leaders. And that's the goal of what we're trying to bring to you as a partner to HGI. But in doing that, you have to know your why. There's a why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And I can guarantee you, the why is not just an income. You can earn income doing a lot of things. There's a lot of dollars in America. That's easy. But the why, and Hubert alluded to it, Raghu talked about it, it's here. The why is here. Initially tonight we heard from Jinu and Blessing about the why. There's a why there. I want to tell you my why, my story. Why for the last 36 years I've been in the financial services industry. Why I built a team at one time. Why I spent 27 years as an advisor doing exactly what you do every day. Why did I leave the field of medicine? And that's what I want to talk to you about in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Because I think the lesson from it is exactly what some of you may be looking for. And if I can impact even one of you to become stronger, to build your team faster, and then ultimately to make more money, then this is all worth it. My story started on Easter Sunday, 36 years ago. I had just left a career in American football in the NFL as a team physician. And I decided kind of on a whim that I was going to move back from New York City to Minneapolis, where I was born and raised, and go back to live with my parents in the 900 square foot home that I grew up in. I had been fortunate. I made a little bit of money when I was in the NFL, and things were okay. I really didn't have to work. And so I stayed home and I helped my parents. I paid off their home so they no longer had a mortgage. Things were okay. And on Easter Sunday, I get a call from the Prudential Insurance Company offering me a job as the medical director for Prudential. That was the beginning of my career. in the financial services business. Well, that job lasted about 18, 19 months. And why did it last such a short period of time? Not because I wasn't good at what I did, but some of you that maybe know the history of the financial services world know that Prudential gets sued by the federal government, the Security Exchange Commission, and the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. What did they get sued for? They got sued for sales practices by advisors. Advisors that would highlight and write on an illustration. That's illegal. That's illegal. You can't write on an illustration. So the result of it is Prudential took all illustrations and all marketing materials off the market. We would have to go in and manually add up premiums because we couldn't give people an illustration and still sell insurance. So the reaction is they eliminated my job and they made me this wonderful offer. I'm 28 years old. I had come out of medical school. I knew nothing about sales. I didn't have a license. I had never been in corporate America really. And they said to me that you could become an advisor. I had to get licensed. I had to do all the things that you do. But here's the catch: that I had just gotten married. My wife was pregnant with my first child, and I just bought the big suburban home and had a big mortgage. And now I'm unemployed. And I'm going to start a new career. Any of you hear that from any of your prospects, any of your recruits, or maybe you're in that situation now as a brand new advisor? Well, I was there. I lived that. And for 3.5 months, I never sailed, not a thing. I worked on getting licensed, but I had nothing. And the result of that, during that time, my wife delivered my son, my firstborn son. But no income. And a mortgage and a wife. Life was tough. Thank goodness at 3.5 months, I had my first sale. I closed it, it was fine. Everything was okay. Nice commission. But in that intern, my upline, what you would know as my upline, but it was in traditional brokerage, my manager, said to me, if you're going to be the chef in the kitchen, the reason that you're not being successful right now is because you're not eating your own cooking. In other words, you don't own what you're trying to tell other people to have, and therefore it's disingenuous. It doesn't work. You gotta own what you have. So I had to figure out with no income, nothing, how I was gonna do that. I had a brilliant idea. How about I put a policy on my son? 3 weeks old, I could put a juvenile policy, no problem. Now I own it, now I can tell the story to prospects that I own the policy. So I did that. But I had no idea how I was going to pay. It was $20 a month premium. But I knew I could go probably to the grocery store, to the filling station. I could get a second job if I needed it, right? It could be kind of part-time. And I could pay that $20 premium. So when I bought the policy and put it on my son, I said to all the relatives, aunts and uncles, grandparents, cousins, whoever it was, listen, every time this little boy poops or pees or coos or cots, do not give him a $5 bill. Do not give him a $10 bill. Don't be throwing money at him. Instead, here's the address, here's the policy number. Send a check for the same $5 or $10 to the insurance company because I knew that's how I could fund that policy. I had no idea that day, 36 years ago, how I would do it. Well, that worked because that's what they did. And that policy, from that point forward, was max funded from day one, and I was only putting in $20 a month. It worked. See, the power of what you're doing is much bigger than what you think. Legacy is much bigger than simply a death benefit 65 years from then. Legacy is about the lessons that you're able to teach as a result of the habits that you create. All of the features, all of the reasons why a life insurance policy may work. That's how you build legacy. So you see, fast forward now 2.5 years, and my son is now 3. Well, when my son was born, he had a little bit of lung disease. Fortunate for my education as a doctor, I could treat him at home. I didn't have to send him to the clinic every day for treatment. And I would come home every day at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would give my son his lung treatments. You tell me what other business, what other industry, what other profession could you be in that would allow you to come home in the middle of the day, not take personal time off to help your family do what your family needs and not create additional expenses you'd have the income to pay for anyway. You have made the decision to be in an industry that is unlike any other industry. Whether it's people building or product selling, it's the industry. Congratulations to all of you, especially all of you new people who are just embarking on this unbelievable career. I applaud you for that. Because I did that for 3 years. And on one Wednesday afternoon, at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I came home to give my son his lung treatment. And I did, just like every other day for the previous 2.5 years. And that afternoon after his treatment, for whatever reason, and I don't know to this day why, I decided to give my son a bath. Now, I don't know how many of you have kids that are at or near 3 years old or a little bit older, but 3-year-old boys don't listen. They don't do what you tell them to do. They're rambunctious. They splash the water and the bubbles and the soap all over and they make a mess. Right? Yes. Well, mine did the same thing. And except that day, he decided to run out of the bathtub. Now, my wife at the time, his mother, was in the kitchen cleaning my equipment for the next day's treatment. And she had some of the equipment on the dining room table drying and being ready to put back together for the next day's treatment. My son decided to jump out of the bathtub, soap and bubbles all over. The hallway is soaking wet. And I'm yelling at him, why are you doing this? Don't do this, come back here, let me dry you off, blah, 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 whatever. Well, he decides to run into the kitchen. He grabs the heater core of a humidifier that's drying, and he plugs it in the wall and electrocutes himself. You see, thank goodness his father was a doctor. And thank goodness I was less than 10 seconds away from him. Because what I found myself doing at that moment was giving him CPR. And fortunately, now I don't know how many of you know medicine at all, but the statistics of a traumatic cardiac arrest due to electrocution and surviving is statistically 0. Nobody survives that. But the miracle of life, my son survived. You see that life insurance policy that I bought him? 100% useless. Why was it useless? He didn't die. What good was it? You see, legacy is much bigger than that. The value that we bring to our team, and the value that you bring in building, and the value you bring to your clients is so much bigger than simply a death benefit. It has nothing to do with the death benefit. How about all the opportunities to teach them? How about all the things that a life insurance policy, as the example, can bring to the table? Because you see, that accident left my son permanently brain damaged. My son was a special education child his whole life. In the ensuing 2 years, 472 doctor appointments and 9 surgeries. If you would see my son today, it would be very evident and obvious that he's not normal. But you see, you all know my son. You just don't know him by name. Because that young man, through the efforts of special education, got high school diploma. I found him a university program that took special education, and he earned a bachelor's degree. And you see, 100% of that education was paid for from the cash value of that life insurance policy. The value that you create, the legacy that was taught to my son through the proceeds of that policy that didn't pay a death benefit, taught him the lessons of understanding savings, the lessons of paying bills, the lessons of tax deferral, the lessons of tax-free, and the lessons of being able to provide a complete education that didn't come out of anybody's pocket, and he came out of college with no loans. And you see, even a disabled child like him has abilities. They have opportunities. They can succeed in this world. Because that young man, the reason you know him is because that young man is the on-screen credited designer of the video games Candy Crush. He's also the designer of the video game trilogy Call of Duty. And just 3 weeks ago released his last game for the moment, the Tony Hawk Skateboard Series. You see, very well accomplished with major studios, doing a big-time job, and he did it all on an education that was paid for from his life insurance proceeds. You see, that's teaching a lesson, that's being a legacy, that's building. I built a human being, all through the lessons of the work that you all do every day. And the more families that you can help, and the more efficient you can be, the more opportunities you have to affect lives, just like I happen to be able to do for my son. That's the power of what you're doing. That's the power of going wide, going deep, being smarter, building faster. The faster you build, the more lives you are able to affect. Keep doing what you're doing. As Hubert said, you're already taking the steps to get there. Absolutely. Just get better at taking the steps. And if you can pick up the pace of the steps, you'll get there that much quicker, which means you'll be able to help that many more people. So I want to thank you. The gratitude that we have at Nexus, the partnership with HGI is unbelievable. You all are a big part of why HGI is the biggest partner that Nexus has and is driving us to our success, just like you just came through yours with your earn-out period. Ours is next week. So thank you again. I'm grateful for the opportunity, the reception I get, Raghu, every time with you at your offices, and me being around the country to all of your offices, that whole group of leaders. I've been to every one of their places. I'll continue to do it. I will step up the pace. I will get faster at what I do. We will help more families together.